Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, where we document the progress of feminism and the destruction of traditional family values in America. And based on our recent polling, it looks like they have a really long way to go, especially as far as a successful career versus happily married families are concerned. Now, we're talking about all of this because of the recent speech that NFL player Harrison Butker made at his alma mater, Catholic University. The speech had some really base stuff in it, especially attacking the president as a fake Catholic and decrying silent Christianity. Here's a small clip.
Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally. He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people, it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic.
There were some things in there that really caused progressives to melt down, especially the part where he labeled the Pride movement as degenerate. But it was his stance on women that got the most attention. And I think especially the fact that his beliefs were rooted in his religious faith. Here's another clip.
I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation.
Now, there's plenty more to that speech, and it's really worth a watch. It's about 20 minutes, and make sure when you watch it, you're not looking at an edited version. But the big news, and what we're going to talk about today, is that despite the outrage of the punditry, the media, and even celebrities, Katy Perry even piled in on this one, America agrees with Harrison Butker and supports his right to say the things that he said. And here's the first question. Which is more important to most women? Having a successful career or having a happy marriage and children? And according to 1,222 American adults, 30% say successful career, but 43% say happy marriage and kids, although 27% are not sure. Now, believe it or not, I looked in all of the crosstabs, and although in most circumstances, happy marriage and kids beat successful career, there were no majorities, period, whatsoever, where happy marriage and kids won, except for two. And we're going to get into them. The first is on this slide here, and it's men under 40 who, by a majority, 52%, say happy marriage and kids are important to most women, whereas only 30% say career. But look at women under 40. They're the most likely to say that the career is most important by 44% to only 40%. But to me, what is most profound here is that women over 40 signal. Even though women under 40 are most career-minded, it's women over 40 who are least career-minded. And 48% of them say a happy marriage and children are most important. I think they'd probably be the ones to know. But here are the party numbers, and Republicans and independents basically agree, 25% and 24%, who say a successful career is most important to most women, but 54% of Republicans, and yes, that's the other majority, 54% of Republicans say happy marriage and kids, 44% of independents. But look at Democrats. They're not actually reversed the other way. It's 40% to 33%, a pretty weak plurality, say a career is most important to most women. But, that 33% is a pretty significant number saying marriage and kids. Here's the next question. An NFL football player named Harrison Butker recently gave a graduation speech at a Catholic college in which he expressed traditional Catholic beliefs about marriage and family life. And the question we asked about this was whether Americans approved or disapproved of him expressing his religious beliefs. And an overwhelming majority of Americans approve. 38% strongly approve, another 20% somewhat, for a combined total of 58%. But 29% at least somewhat disapprove, although only 15% strongly disapprove. Now, that's a really big majority, way bigger than the most recent matchups between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. But what is kind of interesting about the question to me is that, 29% of Americans do disapprove of somebody essentially just publicly expressing his religious beliefs. And to me, that's kind of sad in a country that has, free speech. But here are the numbers by gender and age. And men, much more than women, approve of the speech that Harrison Butker made. It's 63% of men under 40, 33% strongly, while only 21% disapprove. But look at men over 40, 68% of them at least somewhat approve, and only 23% disapprove, only 12% strongly. Now, women under 40 are less likely to approve of him expressing his religious beliefs, but they still say approve by a plurality, 44% to 42%, and only 22% of them strongly disapprove. And those women over 40 numbers are pretty solid as well. But moving on to the party numbers, and Republicans do overwhelmingly approve, although they tend to be the most religious minded and also the most in favor of free speech, as some of our previous polling has pointed out. But 80% of Republicans approve, only 13% disapprove, only 4% strongly disapprove. Although a majority of independents also approve, 52%, 31% strongly, and only 29% disapprove. But look at Democrats. They're actually in favor of this by a plurality, 48% to 42%. But that 42% number, let's go back to the question. 42% of Democrats disapprove of Harrison Butker publicly expressing his religious beliefs. That number is kind of scary to me. But here's the next question. The National Football League publicly condemned Harrison Butker's graduation speech. Do you approve or disapprove of the NFL condemning the speech? And Americans disapprove by a pretty strong majority. 37% at least somewhat approve, 21% strongly, but 51%, a majority, disapprove, 35% strongly, much more than the only 21% who strongly approve. And here are the party numbers, and Republicans very, very strongly disapprove, 54%, with another 14% somewhat, so that's 68% to only 23% approving. And independents approve almost as infrequently as Republicans, but they don't disapprove as much either. 33% strongly plus another 18%. So that's a majority, though, 51%. But Democrats approve of what the NFL did in regards to this speech. 54% of them, a majority, with 33% strongly approving and only 35% disapproving at all. But again, to the gender and age numbers, and the numbers are pretty close to this, although women under 40 are least likely to disapprove. I think the one that stands out to me is the men over 40, which, let's face it, are probably where most of the NFL fans sit. And only 35% of them approve of what the NFL did here, only 20% strongly. But 42% strongly disapprove, the biggest number here, and another 13% somewhat disapprove, for a combined total of 55%. So in condemning this speech, the NFL did something that is disapproved of by the NFL's probably core demographic. So what's the takeaway here? Well, Americans, by a pretty clear plurality, agree with Harrison Butker's traditional takes on marriage and family. And older women are some of the strongest believers. But I think what's really clear is that the NFL's actions on this probably impacted them by losing some of their core fan group. And to me, it's just one more in a long line of self-inflicted gunshot wounds, with these corporations making tone-deaf virtue signaling stances. It's not the first time, and it's not the last time either. And believe it or not, it's not even the first time we polled on it. A year ago, we pretty clearly showed that Target and Bud Light, with their actions supporting Pride, likely inflicted a lot of damage on themselves. Target has recently been criticized for its promotions related to LGBTQ Pride Month. Has this controversy made you more or less likely to shop at Target? And among people who shop at Target, 35% say less likely, while only 25% say more likely. And in the biggest spending age group, middle-aged Americans, it's 39% less likely to only 20% more likely. Anheuser-Busch has used transgender model Dylan Mulvaney to promote its Bud Light brand of beer. Does that make you more likely or less likely to purchase Bud Light beer? 19% of Americans said more likely, but 40% said less likely. And again, among middle-aged Americans, only 12% said more likely and 53% said less likely. So as we enter this Pride Month, all you NBA marketing wonks, stay frosty out there. It feels to me like people are looking for a new target. If you have thoughts on this video, please post them in the YouTube comments. And while you're there, like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, or go to Rumble if you want to see all our content, plus our Steve Bannon interviews. I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.